Hi, my name is Chris Turner. What I'd like to talk to you about today is the 10-step lean assessment form. This is a tool that we use to assess any organization to determine their level of leanness. It sounds like it's not a word, but it's just my word. Really what it does is it actually allows a third party, such as myself, to go into an organization and do an assessment on that organization to determine how lean they are compared to the fixed criteria or the questions that are actually in the lean assessment form. Now this takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of training, but it's relatively easy for most people to do that after maybe 4 or 5 times of using the process. Shortly I'm going to go through a video with you demonstrating how to use this, and so you'll find a lot more detail in that. But why is it important? Well, it's really important because a lot of companies actually think they're more lean than they really are. And it's kind of, how lean is lean? Well, if you look at somebody like a Toyota or a Nissan or a Honda or somebody like that, an organization of a world-class level, then you're really comparing yourself with the best in the world. And their customers define them as the best in the world at what they do. And it's really the customer that defines whether an organization is world-class or not the company itself. They may think they are, but it's their customers that really define if they are or not. And one of the key things about this lean assessment form is that you're actually looking through the eyes of the customer at how the organization is performing over the 10 steps that are put into the actual form itself. So go through the video, take a look at it, and you'll find it very interesting, and you'll also be amazed at some of the results that you get back, probably with your own organization or other third-party organizations that you go do assessments for. So enjoy the video. I hope you learn from it, and I hope you get a lot of value out of using the lean assessment form. Welcome to this support video about the 10 steps to become a lean enterprise lean assessment form. I'd really like to take you through this short video to give you a better idea of how to use this lean assessment form. Let me just go through the Word document that you're actually going to get in a PDF format, and you will see this in your support documents that you get with your training. Here's the cover. If I go down through this, you'll see there are some detailed instructions instructing you how to go through this form step by step. And once we go through those, there are some important notes that's really important for you to read. And also there's a disclaimer that makes it clear that we bear no responsibility for the way that you use this. It's for your own personal use, and you do so at your own risk. Here's the lean assessment form. What the lean assessment form really does is takes you through the 10-step model and gives you an ability to be able to do an assessment on a work area or on a complete facility. It really depends upon the size of the organization that you're working with. If it's a big organization, then you need to break it down into smaller chunks, smaller work areas, and usually they're very well structured in that way. If it's a smaller company, then you can probably do an overall assessment to give you an idea of where that company is. So the purpose of this lean assessment form is to really get an idea of where the organization is in terms of its lean implementation. Is it doing any lean? Is it really pretending to be lean? Is it really lean? Is it very lean? How lean is it? That's really what we're trying to do here. And the other thing that you're going to be able to do with this assessment is, because you're assessing against fixed criteria, you can actually then make an assessment of the weaknesses and strengths of an organization. which is very important for an organization to be able to figure out what they need to do on a strategic level to change the culture in the organization in order to be able to find out where they want to be in 1 or 2 or 3 years' time. So I'm going to take you through this very quickly just to show you this example. Here in the first level, we've got step 1, which is strategy deployment. You can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different criteria that you're going to be asking about strategy deployment. And let me just start off with number 1. So you can see it says leadership has developed a strategic plan and is using it to align continuous process improvement projects with business goals and objectives. So first of all, what you're going to do is, the first thing is to qualify that statement. So does the business have a strategic plan? Yes or no? There's really no maybe. It has kind of a strategic plan. It either does or it doesn't. It's a black and white answer, yes or no. If it's no, then immediately in the score column, you are going to put a 0. If it's yes, then in the score column, you are going to put a number between 1 and 5. And how do you determine if it's a 1 or a 5? Well, you go into the criteria and say, well, if 100% of all CPI projects are aligned with business goals and objectives, then it's a 5. If half of them are aligned, then it's a 3. If only just a couple of them are aligned, then it's going to be a 1 or a 2. And that's really how you use this lean assessment form. And you'll go down each row in turn until you've done all of the requirements for step 1. And then once you've done that, you'll go to step 2 and do the same thing, which is value stream mapping. And then you'll go to step 3, which is workplace organization. And then step 4, which is improved process flow. Step 5, which is reducing changeover times. Step 6, which is implement a pull system. Step 7, which is balance the workload. Step 8, which is develop standard work. Step 9 is continuous process improvement. And then finally step 10, which is lean supply chain. So let me just reiterate that first of all, what you're going to do is at each of those rows, for whatever the question is, you're going to qualify it. Do they have it? Do they not have it? If they do have it, then at what level do they have it? Is it a 1 or is it a 5 or somewhere in between? And that's really what you're going to try to figure out with this assessment form. Once you've completed the assessment form, then all of the numbers that you put into the right-hand score column are going to be totaled up in the total score cell. And once that happens, then you can actually put a percentage rating against it. So in order to show you this better, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the Excel spreadsheet. Here we have the Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see down at the bottom here, there's a printable assessment, which has got exactly the same as what I just showed you. And you would print this off, I think it's 4 sheets of paper. And you would use that to do the physical assessment. And obviously, if you're doing multiple work areas, then you would identify each of those work areas so you can come back to that later. And then once you've done the assessment, you'll go to the spreadsheet assessment and you'll enter the scores in each of these cells on the right-hand column. And you can see that I've already done that. Now, when you put the scores in, it will automatically total the scores up for each step. And here you will see 2 numbers in this particular row. The first number under the score column is the actual score. The second number is the potential score. So if this organization had scored a 5 on each of the step 1 strategy deployment criteria, then it would have scored 25 points. However, you can see that it only scored 11. So that's showing you the relationship between what was possible as opposed to where it is. And each step has exactly the same thing. There are two numbers. And we can go through each of those and see. So balance the workload, you can see there's a potential of 20 and they scored a 4. And 15 and a 5 for standard work. So again, it will automatically total the score up for you, and it will also give you a percentage rating. So you can see this organization had a total score of 53, and their rating was 31.2%. And what that really means is that if we go to this rating chart, the rating class that they fall into is between 20.1 and 40%. So that gives them an overall score of 2, or rating of between 20 and 40%. So this is a beginning lean performance. What it really says is there's some objective evidence to demonstrate lean systems are being developed and applied consistently. So this organization would then need to say, okay, if we are a level 2, which is a beginning lean performance, what do we need to do to get to a level 3? And that's how they would use the assessment to drive their continuous process improvement. What you would need to do at a strategic level is then to say, okay, where do we need to improve ourselves based on this assessment? And where do we get the best bang for the buck in order to do that? The other thing that the Excel spreadsheet gives you, it gives you this nice little layout here at the bottom, which is a score area, and you can see how you scored in each step. So you can start to see where you're weak and where you're strong. This organization was so-so in strategy deployment and value stream mapping, workplace organization, a little bit weak on the reducing changeover times, and really very, very weak. There was nothing in pull system. Not a lot in the balanced workload, and they had some standard work, but they obviously have a lot of room for improvement. And so do they have a lot of room for improvement in the CPI, or the continuous process improvement. Same with the supply chain. Like I said, the overall score was 53, and the overall percentage rating was 31.2%. Now what that does is once you put those numbers in, it opens up this radar chart or spider diagram. There are 34 questions that are being asked, and each of the steps, and you can actually see what those are. If it had scored a 5 on every one of those 34 points, there would be a total circle all the way around here. But as you can see, there's a lot of 2s, there's some 3s, there's a 5, kind of bearing out the numbers that we were talking about earlier, which is between a 2 and a 3. The other thing that it'll do, it'll give you a bar chart. In this row, you can see the 34 questions, and the score is at the bottom. So here's the 5, and you can actually compare the 34 with the questions to see which one is which. And then if you go to this chart, it shows you each of the steps, what the percentage is again. And then this is just how we get that chart, build the charts. This is the information to show you how to do that. So that's the overview of what the lean assessment form is about and how it really is used. One of the issues that we have when people start to do this assessment is they to make things up the way they think it should be as opposed to the way it really is. And one of the things that we do when we train people to do this audit is to say to them, look, you're not going to get this perfectly right in the first time that you're going to do it, because you're going to need to get used to using the system. You're going to get used to building consistency. So you really need to do maybe 3 or 4 of these. And it's always better if there's 3 or 4 of you working together, where you can get an idea of what the standard is for the culture within your organization. The other thing you've got to figure out is, are you going to do the whole facility as an overall assessment to give you a kind of a feel about where that organization is? Or are you going to break it down into smaller chunks by work area or department or so on? So this is really some important decisions that you've got to make up front. You would do this assessment before you do any improvements to get an idea of where the score is and where the organization is. And then you would then do the assessment, say after a month or a quarter, and you would repeat it every quarter or every month for a period of time until you found yourself at a consistent level of performance. And the idea is that if you reach a 5, then according to the scoring criteria, if you looked at the benchmarks, which is down at the bottom here, let me go to that. If you look at the benchmark, these are world-class organizations, a Toyota, a Dell, a Honda, a Nissan, and there's loads of others, but these are just giving you some examples. If you are benchmarking against any other organization, like a corporation that's got several different entities, then you could actually benchmark against those other entities. It's always a good thing to do that. I've always encouraged people to collaborate with local organizations, providing there's no conflict of interest, to get people to go into these other organizations and do their own assessments for that organization, and vice versa, for that organization to come in and do the assessments of the other organization, so that they're getting some cross-functional ideas and feeling about where the organizations are improving. So if you're a number 2 organization, the real goal of this is to drive continuous process improvement. So you really want to be able to know what you have to do to get to a level 3 if you're scoring at a level 2. And then once you make the 3, what do you have to do to get to a level 4, and so on. If organizations don't use this properly, they're really kind of cheating themselves. And at the end of the day, they're cheating their customers because they're not really getting a true reflection of where the organization is. I go to a lot of businesses that tell me that they're lean organizations and they've been doing lean for 10 or 15 years. And yet when I go through this assessment with them, they can be scoring a 1 or a 2. And they're really blown away by that because they go, there's no way. We must be a lot higher than that. You're obviously biased or something. And it's not that. It's just that in their mind, they believe that they're a better organization than they actually are. But you've got to remember, this is fixed criteria that's based on experience. And I'm using a Toyota or a Dell or a Honda as the model for this assessment. And that's what you're really comparing yourself to, a world-class organization. So if you're only scoring a 1, then you have a lot of potential. However, if you went and scored yourself at a 4, but you're only really a 2, like I said, you're cheating yourself and your customers because it's make-believe. It's not really true. And we try to get that over to people that are going to use this form and go out and do the assessment. So just to recap on what I've actually said to you, you need to take the printable assessment, take that around with you, take several copies if you're going to do multiple areas, and remember to put the information and the details on the top, and then do the assessment, come back, use the Excel spreadsheet assessment and enter the numbers into the assessment sheet, print off the charts, so on, and then use that as a standard baseline for an organization or a work area or a department to know exactly what to do next and what they need to improve on. And then when you do the next assessment, you're comparing them against that baseline. And that's what you're really trying to do here.